Yo to the yo to the yo. It is your boy, Hermie the Worm again, coming at you live in front of a camera in an empty classroom. Today, we're going to be talking about the Battle of Lundy's Lane, which is one of the battles that were fought during the War of 1812. This is part two of a little series that I'm doing because I'm going to be traveling basically half of the Canadian provinces during the spring break, and I will be visiting a lot of these historical sites that I will be talking about. So I decided, why not talk about the history and go to the place where the battle or the history event took place and record it and show it to you guys. So that is what I'm doing. So we will be visiting the Battle of Lundy's Lane, or at least the battlefield today. The Battle of Lundy Lane is known for a lot of names. The Battle of Niagara Falls, the Battle of Bridgewater, but we're going to call it the Battle of Lundy's Lane because that is the official name of it. Long story short, let's say you were an American that saw this beautiful waterfall. Wouldn't you want that to be yours? And so that is basically what the entire Battle of Lundy's Lane was. It was mainly to capture Niagara Falls and push American troops up north to British Canada. There's a lot of reasons why the Battle of 1812 started and why the Americans wanted to push up north. And so instead of yapping for a whole hour, I'll just give you the three main reasons why the Battle of 1812 started, for we could talk directly about the Battle of Lundy's Lane. So let's start with the British forced American sailors into the Royal Navy. That's right, we're already starting on a heavy one. So the Great Slave, not the Great Slave Lakes, that's part of the Northwest Territories. The Great Lakes of mid-eastern United States and Canada, a lot of the Royal Navy battle took place within the Great Lakes. And during that time, American troops were also within that lake, along with the British. And during which, when the Americans will get captured by the British sailors, instead of sending them back home and turning them into prisoners of war or sending them to prison, which some of them were, they'll just enlist them in the Royal Navy and have them do tasks. They were essentially slaves within the ships. And in order for these sailors to be released back to American soil, they had to pay a hefty fine, or, in my favorite way to say it, get taxed. Because there's something the British love more than conquering the entire world and making colonies out of it, is taxing people for no apparent reason. That was one of the reasons why the War of 1812 began to brew up. A lot of people, especially American politicians, didn't like the idea of their own soldiers being captured and turned into British sailors. And also, it was a direct attack of United States sovereignty, because they were already independent from the United Kingdom or Great Britain, and they didn't like the idea of them just taking a bunch of Americans and be like, all right, you're British now. How scary is that? And then the second reason was the British blockade and interference with the U.S. trade, which ruined the American commerce. So think about this. So the Great Lakes were, during that time, a very active place for both trading, military, and negotiation places. So think about this. Your American ship that used to go from Lake Ontario to British Canada to sell some stuff to the French, who were right there in the Quebec side. And a lot of French soldiers still stayed within the area, even though it was already part of the Great Britain colonies, but we won't get into that. Long story short, they started putting blockades. So every time the Americans wanted to go past on the other side to British Canada, they were stopped by the Royal Navy, they were taxed, the goods were taken for no reason, and they would have to pay extra to continue passing through the Lake Ontario mainly, where these trades took place. They also consider that a unconstitutional taxation towards the American government. But since when does the British care about the American Constitution? Aha! So that was the second reason why they were essentially getting mad. And to kind of give you a more specific example, the British Order Council of 1807 restricted the Americans from further trade with the French people. And so that is the more specific example of why exactly this was going on. It was a British Council in 1807. Then third and foremost was British commanders and generals supported Native American alliances to resist the American expansion. Because you know what was going on during this time? That's right, the Manifest Destiny ideology. Rah! To give you a more specific example, this didn't mean that the British supported the natives. It is quite literally, they just hated the United States and were willing to supply the natives with guns and firearms to attack the Americans. So therefore, the Americans can't say, hey, why are you getting involved in our expansion? But rather, the natives are the ones doing it, and so the British hands are clean. But let me give you a specific example for you to understand what I'm saying. In 1811, British agents supplied Native Americans, specifically I don't know how to say that, the Tecumseh's Confederacy, and they gave them a bunch of weapons for the Battle of Detroit. And so the natives that were fighting within that time and that battle, all the weapons they used were British made. And so the British just slapped a bunch of guns to the natives, and they're like, all right, go fight. And fight they did. That shows that the British were willing to sabotage American expansion, and so they just about had it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. And so in June of 1812, the War Hawks in Congress, led by Henry Clay and John C. Calhoun, pressed President Madison at the time to declare war on the British and to take British Canada. And he agreed because war was shortly declared after that, thus beginning the War of 1812. Alright, so at this point the War of 1812 is already starting. The British are being British and all this cool stuff is going on. So let's talk about a couple battles before we get to the Battle of Lundy's Lane. And I will also give you the layout later just because it gets kind of confusing as the battle goes on. Keep in mind the battle lasted an estimate of about 6 hours, but it was one of the most bloodiest battles of the War of 1812. And so, yeah, things are going to get confusing, but I'll be sure to try to draw a map here at the whiteboard the best I can. I'm not the best artist out there, but I'll try. So, let me give you, I'm going to do it through POVs too. So, right here on top, you'll see whether it's American POV or British POV. And so right now we're going to start with the American point of view. So following the successful capture of Fort Erie and the Battle of Chippewa, which is a major river near Lundy's Lane, Major General Jacob Brown stationed near the river Queenstown. So Queenstown is a road right next to the Niagara River to the side. It was very close to Lundy's Lane, extremely close. However, while the British were reinforcing their positions, because they were already pushed back because these guys moved forward. So they right now were winning the war. And the British, while reinforcing their positions, didn't realize that on July 24, 1814, Brown ended up withdrawing from the Chippewa River. So he was already way up here and decided to send himself along with all his soldiers back down to reinforce with supplies and other soldiers that were going to meet them down here. So the reason why he moved all the way down here along with all his men was to secure supplies. He was running very low on supplies during this time, and so even he wanted to stay up there, he couldn't because they didn't have anything. So if the British ever did come back, they were going to get hit really bad. And so to avoid that mistake, they just ended up going back down to secure supplies. But that wasn't just it. You see, General Brown was already preparing to strike up north, however, to Bridgeton or Bridgetown. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Bridgeton, I believe it is. But that's why he wanted to reinforce himself with all these other troops as well as all the other supplies, because when he was going to come back, he was supposed to come back a lot bigger and stronger and take the British way up more north. Now we're going to get started on the Battle of Lundy's Lane. So this kind of just a bit of context. It wasn't directly part of the battle. It was more or less the Battle of Fort Erie and Battle of Chippewa. But to save you some time, I basically squished both of them together into this POV because that's essentially what happened. So here's the map of the layout of Lundy's Lane, but I will get to it in just a minute because first I need to mention one more thing. So Wilford Scott was one of the lieutenants in charge of the battle. And the reason why Major Brown wasn't too scared to leave Queenston Road, which is all the way up here. He ended up going all the way down here, like it's already off the map. But he wasn't too worried because Scott was stationed right here, near Lundy's Lane. And so they weren't too scared of losing a lot of land because Winfield Scott, Lieutenant Scott, already had a station right there. However, they did make a crucial mistake because Major General Phineas Real, he ended up seeing Lundy's Lane, and it was empty. Lundy's Lane, before they even showed up, was just a random hill. Everything else right here was like flat, and Lundy's Lane was the only place near this area that was like a little hill. And so seeing the opportunity, he commands the British advancements to go and take Lundy's Lane to set up artillery aiming at Scott's troops, while Scott also had two artilleries aiming towards Lundy's Lane. However, they didn't realize just how big of an advantage that was because everything else was flat while Lundy's Lane wasn't, meaning they actually had to climb up. Even though it was a small hill, they still had to climb up to Lundy's Lane, and Lundy's Lane gave you the advantage of seeing everything else around you. It was quite literally almost a perfect circle. So they had a full 360 of protection as well as a little hill behind them. So they were protected during the flank. However, flank to the right. However, you will see that that doesn't mean they were fully well guarded. But he wanted to do this in order to keep contact with the Americans. Because they began to lose sight of the Americans since Brown ended up withdrawing all the way down here and Scott was right here. And the British were pushed back all the way up here. And so to make sure they don't lose eyes on the Americans, they ended up just taking Lundy's Lane because they realized, hey, it's empty and it's a hill. So let's use that to our advantage. So, and also I should mention, he didn't have a lot of people with him. General Phineas Real, Major General Phineas Real didn't have a whole big army. He only had a small infantry and as well as a small militia that he was able to bring with him. But he still did have artillery and he did still have supplies. However, he didn't have enough to directly attack Scott. And so just to play safe, he just set up camp right here and that was about it. Everything was quiet for at least 10 hours. 10 hours, I'd say. So all of this took place on July 24. But the Battle of Lundy Lane didn't begin until July 25. And so in the morning, or like very early morning of July 25, 1814, British Lieutenant Governor Gordon Drummond arrived in the area to take command of Major Real's, Major General, I don't know why I keep messing that up, Major General Real's people, like soldiers. And the whole purpose of him coming was to try to find a way to get Scott to leave and head more down to the west side of the bank of Niagara. So his plan was to hopefully drive Scott's camp around down here to the bank of Niagara Falls. So right here on the side. And he was hoping that there would be no tensions. The whole point was him to just march and hopefully Scott will see that and retreat back. But however, that's not what happened. In fact, it was quite the opposite. So they started dismantling the things up here. So they started taking apart the tents. The artilleries were being moved more to the side here. And they were hoping that it would just be a quick escalation forward. And they were to go all the way back down here to the west of the bank. So around this area. And hopefully just keep pushing them back. To everyone's shock, that same morning, Brown broke down his camp and was heading up north with more supplies and more troops. And Real, seeing this, he ordered a withdrawal. So instead of trying to push Scott back, he ordered the soldiers to head essentially back where they were originally, all the way up here. However, Lieutenant Governor Drummond countered his command, and he said, instead of going back up north, we are going to take back Lundy's Lane, and we're going to stand our ground right there to try to halt their advancements, to hopefully they will run out of supplies first rather than us. And the British were already kind of low on supplies. They didn't have that reinforcement like the Americans did. And so it was a very bold move from Lieutenant Governor Drummond. So if things couldn't get messy enough, picture this. So you're a British soldier on top of Lundy's Lane, resetting everything back, building the camps, putting down artillery, getting the shells ready, and then all of a sudden, you just see 2 American troops right here outside of Lundy's Lane. And then you're like, what the Sigma's going on? And the reason why that happened was because while they were still fixing and putting everything back, General Winfield Scott emerged from the forest to negotiate. And he was right at the mouth of the artillery. He was there with another soldier. And he took a beating. And by beating, I mean they literally tried to blow him up. However, he ended up turning around, and Scott ordered 1 regiment to flank the British left. So what he wanted to do is, since he noticed that the hill was very kind of a 360, he was hoping to send the Americans right here to the side to take the British left right here. So these were British soldiers that were stationed right outside of Lundy's Lane to protect the flank. However, he tried to counter that movement by hoping that if he destroyed all the British here, that they were able to get access to Lundy's Lane. Because there were more soldiers on this side of the lane than there was on this side. The whole entire purpose of the British being here was just to protect the flank. There weren't really a lot in there. It was just enough to try to hold them back if they were trying to do that. And long story short, they succeeded. They took down the British and were able to actually temporarily get inside Lundy's Lane, where they ended up capturing the General Rial. And General Rial was already heavily wounded. And so what they were hoping for was to kind of use him for negotiation. Take him back to the American camp and be like, hey, we got your major general here. We're willing to give him back if you push up north. That was the plan. However, that quickly backfired because Lieutenant Governor Drummond, seeing the flank to his left under threat, shifted focus to protect it. Let me grab my red marker, because this is when stuff gets interesting. I really love seeing how everything plays out here. But let's see. So seeing that the left flank is being under attack, he decides to take some of the troops that were right here, who were, keep in mind, already fighting the Americans. So they were already fighting the Americans this way. So the Americans were advancing towards Lundy's Lane, most of the Americans, while a small percentage of them headed up right here to the side. Keep in mind too that Major General Brown wasn't there just yet. He was still heading up north. So now with Lundy Lane being attacked by the left flank, he ended up switching tactics. He took half of the people already fighting here on the front of Lundy's Lane and shifted them right here to the side to hopefully continue to protect the left flank of Lundy's Lane. However, doing so exposed all of the artilleries that no one was now managing. You only had a few people already fighting with their guns and only a very other small percent that were busy firing artilleries. So doing so, the artilleries were exposed. So Lieutenant Governor Winfield Scott, who is the American, by the way, kind of seeing that night is beginning to fall, because they already started their battle at 6 p.m., which was already late. And so he was hoping that the British will kind of just call it quits and just go north, and everyone could kind of rest until tomorrow. However, many of the commanders, by tradition during this time period, would have stopped right then and there once it began to get dark. Even Lieutenant Governor Winfield Scott was about to withdraw all his men and head back to camp. However, you know who showed up at the right time? That's right, it's my boy, Major General Brown. So he ends up showing up very late to the party, and with a bunch of soldiers now, because keep in mind, I can't emphasize this enough, the only reason why he withdrew from all the way up here was to get more men and more supplies. So seeing that Brown just showed up, so Brown comes up here with all his men and says, hey yo, what the Sigma, man, what's going on? And so now Scott has more troops, and so what he ends up doing is that he continues to push north. So he splits the men from this side of the forest to this side and adds more troops to this side. So the British are very, very, they got a lot on their plate, to say the least. And so he decides to continue pressing the attack. Now, Major General Brown ordered the commander of the 21st Infantry, Lieutenant Colonel James Miller, to capture the British artillery. So, since these artilleries were already exposed, he was hoping to maybe at least capture 3 of the 5 total. And so, he famously replied with, I'll try, sir. And try he did, because he literally succeeded in not only capturing the 3 of them, but all of them. With the British distracted further down the lane, so around down here further down, so with Miller already advancing forward, so he was around here with his troops. He decided it was all or nothing. So he ends up leading a bayonet charge to kill, hopefully, everyone that's on this side of Lundy's Lane. And many of them were wounded, and many of them did die, but so did the British. I feel like they lost more during this attack than Miller did. And so with that, all of Lundy Lane basically fell. So it became part of American expansion. So they ended up taking Lundy's Lane. And Drumard, British General Drumard, ended up advancing, or not advancing, he withdrew all the way back here again. So him and his troops were all the way in Queenston Road. So they weren't too far behind, but they were about to get pushed all the way back. The Americans quickly secured the hill and positioned their artilleries. So now the artilleries that were British and American were now facing, hold on, wow, my markers, I am losing my mind. All right, so they are repositioning all of the artilleries to basically up here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the 2 they already had, 1, 2. If they so much as advanced, they were gonna get blown up. Like, the battle was already over before they even had a proper footing. The British had a proper footing. But British General Drumard, he was already wounded from the neck. Like, I'm not sure, they never specified the wound. He was either cut or shot, but he was heavily bleeding from the neck, heavily wounded from the neck. And he decided if he's gonna die trying to take back Lundy's Lane. So he quickly ordered a retake of the position of Lundy's Lane. His first frontal assault failed, causing a huge amount of casualties. So what he did, not knowing that the artilleries were already facing his men, he sent a small group to this side of the hill to hopefully have that cover advantage. But the Americans, already seeing them, since they already had people stationed right here, ordered a artillery fire towards the British, and they ended up getting wiped out right here. So, seeing that that really wasn't going to work out, they tried a attack a second time. This time, they ended up going this way, hoping that the 5 artilleries that they had were more stationed down here than they were up here. But Drumard was wrong. They were like perfectly stationed to get blown up again. So that second attempt also died. Everyone in that attempt died. But however, in the chaos, so think about this. There's a whole mess going on. You got British coming out like zombies during the Plant vs. Zombies game. And then you got Americans moving back and forth heavily through here and through here. General Wilford Scott got confused of what was going on, whether or not they were advancing north or not, that he ordered a unauthorized charge. So he ordered an unauthorized charge to try to flank the British through the side. But however, the British, not being as blind as I am, noticed that there was a huge group as well as Wilford Scott on this side, and so he immediately ordered an attack, almost killing everyone there involved and heavily wounding Scott. And then they ended up withdrawing back. They thought they had more, like 100 or 200 at that point. They still had a couple thousand. So they ended up getting pushed back, and Drummond launched a third attack, leading to a brutal close-quarter combat, which led to the British to repel, again ending the assault. So what basically happened is that he tries his third and final attack. This time it's all or nothing. He either dies in this battle or he captures Lundy's lane. And so he ends up pushing forward. So he marches forward and sideways, and the other side, knowing that the Americans just recently withdrew from there, so he tried to take that advantage. And the Americans were pushing more towards this way because they saw the British right here. However, they didn't realize the flank to the left was exposed, and so quickly the battle became chaotic. Everyone basically in here were killing each other in a very close quarter combat. So British were dying, Americans were dying. The artillery kind of became pointless because you didn't want to shoot a artillery that was like right here where the Americans and the British were. So it was best to just leave them to fight on their own. During this time, Major General Brown was heavily wounded, and as well as Scott already being wounded from the battle, they had no choice but to station themselves right outside of Lundy's lane. And so being right outside of Lundy's lane, they realized two big things. Both of them were heavily wounded, like to the point where they couldn't even fight anymore. The British were also heavily wounded, including Lieutenant General Drummond, and Rial, who was given, or during that time sneaked out and made his way back to British camp. He was also heavily wounded. Like, Drummond was already bleeding from the neck. And Lieutenant Brown, I believe, was shot in the chest multiple times. And Wilfred Scott was shot a couple times too during his assault trying to head north. And so it was a bloody mess. Like, a lot of people were dying essentially for no reason. And people were literally confused of what was going on already at this point. All they knew is that they had to kill the British. They no longer had command. And the British, also not having command anymore, just knew they had to kill the Americans. Brown ordered a retreat. Supplies, also I should mention, supplies including ammunition and water were running very low on the Americans. It was to the point where they only had enough for one more push. And one more push they did to try to take back Lundy's lane. However, the British already guarding this entire corner of Lundy's lane, like basically a perfect line of Lundy's lane, the Americans failed to get inside. So that's it. All their supplies were essentially wasted. And Brown ordered a retreat. But the British, already seeing the Americans retreat, they didn't fight back. The second they started seeing the Americans run away more down south, they didn't bother shooting. In fact, everyone was already so exhausted at this point that no negotiation even took place. The Americans just left, and the British just were like, all right, that's it. Battle's over, pack it up, boys. The British achieved a strategic victory by stopping the U.S. advancements. Technically, yes, like, it was a strategic advancement. Like, this is from the records from Lundy's Lane, by the way, that I just took notes of. And they say the reason why the one was British had like strategic advancement, which yes, but at the same time, like, God definitely 100% took part in that battle. There is physically no way the British managed to win that, but they did. So congratulations, the British won. However, high casualties also forced Brown to abandon the campaign and withdrew all the way to the U.S. So the U.S. border was, so I don't know if you guys know the like geography of Niagara Falls, but essentially it is half of it. So half of right here, that was British Canada, over here was the U.S. Quite literally, everyone fled back to the United States. They realized they lost, the campaign was over, and so they ended up retreating all the way to the United States. Wow, look at that. That is a mess. Look at that. That is a cool battle right there. All of that was 6 hours. It took 6 hours for all of that to happen. And so let me tell you the casualties too. Let me see. So to kind of give you the amount of people that were involved here, the United States had roughly 2,500 soldiers throughout this entire battle, while the British had 3,500 soldiers. And the Americans had more supplies. The British technically didn't have a lot. And the total casualties on both sides was 1,731. So 6,000 total were involved in the battle, and 1,731 ended up dying. The United States lost 853, while the British Canada lost 878, my bad. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Now, let's go to Lundy's Lane to check it out for ourselves. If you don't see this video, that means I didn't end up going to Lundy's Lane, and it was all a figment of your imagination. But if I do go to Lundy's Lane during my trip, then you will see it in 3, 2, 1, bang. Oh, thank God it stopped snowing. If you guys are watching the vlog, or if you guys watch the vlogs, you will know that it was just heavily snowing a couple minutes ago. So thank God it stopped. Now, where could we visit this battlefield? I'm assuming what's left of it, it's across the street right there. So we're going to cross the street. Oh, the snow's back and it's in my mouth. All right. We are going to cross the street. I see the cemetery, but we are not visiting the cemetery. At least you guys aren't going to see that, because I am not Logan Paul and I do not record dead people. So we'll find a way to cross the street right now. If only the Americans and the British knew that this future field will one day host a Burger King. All right, I'm running out. Screw it. All right, I'm here. All right, let's check it out. So, first things first, I'll basically walk you guys through it. So, here's the first one. The Battle of Lundy's Lane. So, as you can see right there, if you guys want to read it, it was the turning point, as I mentioned, of the War of 1812. So, let's check out the other sides. Oh, don't tell me there are some cannonballs from the battle. Oh no, just a replica. I was about to say, ain't no way they found some of them and kept them. What else do we got? So here are some little uniforms. Nothing fancy. I want to go to the good part. Wow, the snow is so comfortable. It was freezing cold at first, but now it's actually not that bad. All right. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of disappointed. I expected to see a whole battlefield. I'm gonna pull my feet down while I walk, because if I slip, it's gonna be pretty funny. But yeah, I'm kind of disappointed with what they did to the battlefield. I think this is actually the hilltop. Let's check it out. I really, oh, all right. Oh, all right. Oh, it went inside my feet. Oh, all right. I'm all right. See, that's why I want to. Oh my God. All right. Call me crazy, but this is the steep. I'm betting on it. Oh, hold up. I need to remove ice from my feet. Oh, that's cold. That is cold. I feel like I'm walking barefoot now. All right. This has to do with someone else. Yeah, there it is. Look at that. So, born in Quebec City, Philippe Rial, the one who got captured, little goofy goober. And then there, right there, it says around midnight, where I mentioned that the battle ended because all supplies have been exhausted. But yeah, unfortunately, that's all that's left of it. That's actually a shame. I really expected more. because, you know, for such a crucial battlefield. Oh, hold on, I'm putting back my shoes. There was still ice in there. For such a crucial battle that took place in Canadian history, I thought they were gonna, you know, cherish it, keep it around, but I suppose not. That's okay though. I guess some aspects of history is left forgotten. There's a random grave there. There's a graveyard here. Should I record that? Oh no, that's not a graveyard. That's just a bunch of stone. Call me crazy. Call me crazy. Please tell me it's the original stone from the battlefield. I don't know if I could. I don't know how to tell. But there is a bunch of old stone here for no reason. So I like to assume that it was once part of the battlefield. Please, for the love of God, let it be. But there is... Oh, there, I finally fell. I finally fell. Okay. Oh, talk about time. Oh, that hurt my butt. I squished my phone. Please tell me it's not broken. No, it's all right. All right. Well, at least I caught that on camera. Yeah, whether or not this is original stone from the battlefield, it's I guess up for your personal opinion. There's no sign, but if it is, that is actually pretty sick. So I'm gonna watch my step even more now, since that is a brick floor, and my butt touches brick floor, then I'm cooked. So I'm gonna be extra careful now, like a little baby. Okay, let's see. Should I don't know if that's a gravestone. If it is, oh, all right. I'm gonna point at my feet in case I fall again. But I swear I'm not gonna fall anymore. I swear that's the first and last time I eat crap. All right, little by little. All right, I'm good. Oh, holy crap, holy crap. All right, I'm gonna hold this. I'm holding Lundy's lane. All right. Yeah, look at that. So following the capture of the artillery by the Americans, Lieutenant General Truman and his troops retreated from their defense position on a height of land in the cemetery to this area. So over there was Lundy's Lane, as we established. Let me point it back up. Over there was Lundy's Lane. Truman made it all the way around right here. So they weren't pushed back as far back as I thought. In fact, there's more to the little field than I actually thought. I didn't see this part. I'm not gonna fall. Okay. Yeah, look at that. Holy guacamole. I'm gonna walk like an old man. I really don't want to fall again. That actually hurt. And my phone and passport are in the back pocket. So if I damage that passport, I guess I'm staying in Canada, which I am not opposed to, because I kind of like Canada. I just don't like the cities. All right, we're gonna walk back down. If I slip and if I die, if I slip and if I die, I'm gonna be very disappointed, because I did this just for like the 10 views I'm gonna get on my channel. Holy crap, I don't want to fall. Please. Oh, I don't know why, but I have a fear of slipping. I just found that out like a minute ago. Oh, yes. All right, let's see. Oh, what the Sigma? Oh no, that's not part of Lundy's Lane. Oh man. Okay, but there is more to the battlefield over here. Look at that. Oh, I almost fell again. All right, I need to shut up and concentrate. All right, look at that, more rocks. Maybe part of Lundy's Lane. Who knows? Lundy's Lane reference. There's one grave over there. Should I risk it? You know what? I'll make an exception for you guys. It's only one grave. I'll go. If it's related to Lundy's Lane, I will. Actually, no, I shouldn't. I don't know if you guys can see that. Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys can see that. It's kind of steep. I don't know if I'll be able to get back up here. I'll be honest with you. And I feel like the more I stand still, the more my shoes freeze to the ground. I just realized that right now. So you know what? No, you guys aren't getting no no gravestone. This part is gonna be cut out. Editor Frank, cut this part out. Okay, well, unfortunately, that is about it. I'm gonna be honest with you. I expected more for such a significant battle, but I guess the Canadian government doesn't appreciate history as much as I do. Let me try to get back up here. Oh, I am so scared to get back up here. I'm gonna be honest with you. Oh, okay, okay, okay. Oh. In case you guys hadn't cracked the code yet, I'm not used to snow. In fact, this is my first time witnessing snow like this, you know, because I've been to Big Bear, California, where it's like, you know, hard snow after the season passes, but it just snowed on me like 30 minutes ago. So yeah, this is my first time experiencing this kind of weather, just to show how much I love you guys. I am willing to freeze my butt in a different country to see only a park. A park, unfortunately. I am very disappointed. Oh no. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that, look at that, look at that. It's not a gravestone, it is actually a memorial. So that's okay. In commemoration of the bicentennial of the Battle of Lundy's Lane, remembering sacrifices made on both sides, and celebrate 200 years of peace. Dedicated 25th of July 2014 by the Lundy's Lane Historical Society. Well, at least a society that cares about it. Yeah, well, that's about it, guys. Yeah, so I am now going to transition back to my vlog. So if you guys want to see what happens after this video ends, you guys have to go check out the vlog. Aha! Which will be posted a little more while, because I need to edit it, and some other videos in Quebec are going to come out. But yeah, all right, so now I'm going to transition to the vlog. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe. All right, 3 2 1.